You know what's the most dangerous thing you can do in your life? Nothing. Yes, it's that simple. Nothing. Keep repeating the same excuses, the same mediocre habits, while you wait for that magical day when everything aligns. The strongest thing of all is that that day will never come. I'll leave it to you like that. Clear, but don't worry, you're not alone. We're in the same boat of those who need a push or a good kick to get out of inertia. Today we are going to talk about Stoic philosophy, but not with the pomposity of an old book, but with the pragmatism you need to start improving. Yes, in this video I will teach you the 10 lessons or the 10 reality checks to force you to be better. And don't worry, you don't need to be perfect, just constant. So you want to keep looking for excuses, or you are ready to take charge of your life, because the perfect time is, and your only real competition is you. But before you start, listen to this story that will help you better understand the wisdom contained in this material. Once upon a time, in a small coastal town, there was a young fisherman named Lucas. Although Lucas was known for his skill with nets and his knowledge of the sea, he always felt that something was missing. Every morning while he cast his nets into the water, he looked towards the horizon where, imagining how he could improve his fishing and his life. One day while he was sailing alone in his small boat, an unexpected storm stirred up the sea. The gigantic waves threatened to capsize his boat, and the wind prevented him from returning to the coast. Lucas fought with all his might, but he soon realized that it was not enough to resist. He needed a plan. He remembered the words of his grandfather, an experienced fisherman who always said, "The sea teaches you to improve day after day. It is not enough to know how to swim. You must also learn to read the waves." Inspired by those words, Lucas carefully observed the movement of the water. He realized that he could use the currents to guide his boat instead of fighting them. With patience and determination, he adjusted his sails and steered his boat towards a small cove that he had seen once in his explorations. It took hours to arrive, but he finally found shelter there, safe from the storm. The next day, many of his neighbors had given up on Lucas, so they were shocked to see him when he returned to the hamlet. But he returned not only unharmed, but also with a great lesson. He told them how he had used the knowledge gained over the years to adapt to the situation, and overcoming it every day is an opportunity to improve, even if it is a little. Lucas told the younger fisherman, "If you force yourself to learn from each experience, even from storms, you will become stronger and wiser." Since then, Lucas not only dedicated himself to fishing, but also to teaching others how to face difficulties calmly and strategically. He became an example of how constant improvement does not sun transforms our skills, but also our way of seeing the world. The moral of the story is that daily improvement is not always about big changes, but about learning to adapt, observe, and grow a little each time. Force yourself to improve day after day, and you will soon realize that even the fiercest storms can become opportunities to move forward. Before starting with the first lesson, if you find it useful, these videos, I encourage you to subscribe and activate notifications to stay informed about the latest news. We start 1. The enemy in the mirror. How about today? We are going to talk about that invisible friend who is always there, lurking, making you believe that you can't. No, I'm not talking about your imaginary childhood friend. I mean something much more subtle, your excuses, those little lies that you tell yourself to feel better in the moment, but they're actually slowing down your progress. Let's unmask things, because getting better starts with recognizing your own mental traps, and believe me, if you don't see them, you're not going to be able to move forward. I look at you and I see someone incredibly capable, but what do I see when I hear you talk about your dreams, your projects, or your goals? Excuses sound familiar to you. I just don't have time. I'm too tired. Now is not the time. That this Stoic philosophy thing is very complicated for me. Oh, of course, the usual excuses are hidden behind our insecurities and fears, make us think that at some perfect moment in the future everything will align. That perfect future does not exist, and if you stay waiting, you will always be on the same wheel of never starting. First, you have to see the excuses as they are mental traps, small manipulations that make you think that the problem is outside of you. And of course, everything is easier, so it is easier to blame lack of time or bad luck than to assume that it is really you who is not doing anything to improve. The Stoic philosophy teaches us to have control over what depends on us, and to let go of what is not time, luck, others, all that is alien to you. You can control your actions. So if you really want to improve, start questioning those excuses. An effective strategy is to write down your excuses. It may seem absurd, but it's effective. Write down every factor that has prevented you from moving forward so far. Put them on a piece of paper and look at them head on. Each excuse will be weaker when you expose it to the light. Then next to each one, write a concrete action that you can take to move forward, even if it's a small step. No matter what it is, just do it. Each step brings you closer to the goal. Another tactic that can help you is to force myself to improve day after day. Don't wait for everything to be perfect, because it never will be. Do it that you don't feel like it. Get up and do a small task every day without excuses. And no, I'm not saying that you should torture yourself, but that, as of the Stoics, understand that improvement is a constant process, not something that comes suddenly. Excuses weaken when discipline becomes part of your routine. So, dear friend, if you really want to move forward, start by recognizing that enemy in the mirror. Excuses are just a mental obstacle, and you can overcome them with action. Don't look for the perfect moment or the ideal scenario anymore. The only perfect time is now, and the only scenario you need is your will to improve day after day. Stop looking outside for culprits and take responsibility for what depends on you. Ready for action. As Epictetus said, the biggest obstacle you face is not outside of you. It is in the way you talk to yourself, too. The power of small steps. Have you ever heard that to change something in your life you need to take a big leap? Well, let me tell you something. That idea is as wrong as thinking that the office coffee is going to save you from a disastrous Monday. In reality, the real power is in the small steps, those mini victories that may not make much noise, but in the end build the personal empires that you dream of having so much. It is easy to think that you need to make a great effort to make your life change. The image we have of success is often full of great feats and epic moments, but if you look closely, the really important changes don't come from a single heroic act. They come from those days when you achieve something that, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal. It's like when you decide that today, instead of sitting around watching the series on duty, you're going to take a 15-minute walk. It's not a marathon, but it's a step towards health. Or when you decide to read 10 pages of a book instead of staring at your mobile phone as if the world depended on that endless scroll. Those are the moments that count, and the Stoic philosophy, believe it or not, it has a lot to say about this. The Stoics didn't believe in great changes overnight. They knew that the true progress is the sum of small and constant efforts. Instead of waiting for everything to be solved at once, they advocated working every day, even when the road seemed long and tedious. The key is not to give up, it is to move forward, even if it is a small step. That is the secret to building lasting change. Now the real question is how to force yourself to improve every day. Here is an infallible strategy that does not. It has nothing complicated but a lot of cash. It creates habits. Yes, something as simple as that. The trick is to start with things that you can do without much effort, something that makes you feel like you have gained something, even if it's just a little bit. For example, you might not be able to complete an Olympic athlete's workout routine, but you can stretch for 5 minutes when you wake up. Of course, you can avoid the temptation to put things off, but those little steps add up in the end. If you find it difficult to get started, don't worry, you don't have to have everything figured out right away. If you didn't accomplish everything you wanted to do today, it doesn't kill you. But if you've taken that small step, even if you don't have to do it, celebrate the little win and don't worry about it. Your destiny is determined by a series of little choices that make up your life, rather than by major events. Keep in mind that the goal is to make those little adjustments add up, not to alter the world all at once. As they say, if you do it consistently every day, you will see how time works in your advantage. If you want your life to be different, start by being constant, by improving a little every day. So instead of obsessing over making giant leaps, start taking those small steps that, no matter how invisible they are, bring you closer and closer to the life you really want. The secret of success is in the mini victories. Don't forget that perseverance, even if it doesn't make you shine immediately, will take you much further than any isolated and large effort. As they say out there, change is not a matter of doing great things, but of making it small constantly. The sum of small victories builds the future. 3. Run away from your comfort zone. You know what happens when you stay too long in your comfort zone? It's like staying to live in a bubble. Everything seems fine, but in reality you are suffocating without realizing it. You get so used to the easy, to the known, that you forget what it really means. Living the comfort zone. Comfort is like that comfortable armchair that hugs you excessively. It makes you feel safe, but at the cost of what? Are you running out of space to grow, to learn, to face new challenges? It's time to break that bubble before it bursts. Leaving the comfort zone sounds scary. I know, no one wants to leave the security of the known to throw themselves into the void. But here's the trick, I don't know, try to jump without a parachute, but to start walking into the unknown step by step. And yes, fear will be your travel companion. But the good thing about fear is that it is a reminder that you are on the move, that you are alive, that you are not stuck like a stone in the middle of the river. The Stoics were well aware of this. They did not fear the challenge. Rather, they saw it as a chance to grow. They said that it was okay to push yourself to grow every day. Now, how can you begin to leave your comfort zone without feeling like the world is crushing you? The key is to make small changes and push the boundaries of your comfort zone little by little. Imagine that you are walking a tightrope. You will not jump in one go. Instead, you start walking slowly and deliberately while learning to maintain your balance. This is how you can begin making changes in your life. You do not need to take a huge leap. You can start with a small but firm step. The well-known habit of continuous improvement exemplifies this. Every day, spend a few minutes doing something that pushes you a little bit out of your comfort zone. Perhaps it's an awkward discussion you've avoided for weeks, or perhaps it's a book you're scared to read because you don't fully comprehend what it says. What matters is that you do something. The worst that can happen is that you learn something new, even if you feel like your fear is paralyzing you. There is also the problem of modest ambitions, ones that don't appear so daunting, even if they are personal. It is not a revolution, but it is a step, and if you take that small step every day, you will see how in the end you will have traveled a great distance. In conclusion, leaving the comfort zone does not have to be a somersault. It is about making a resolution to do small actions that help you grow. Remember what Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, said: "True freedom is not in staying where you feel comfortable, but in learning to grow in any situation, even when fear stalks you." If you suddenly set yourself the goal of running a marathon, you are likely to achieve nothing more than a sore knee and an existential crisis. The next time you feel the pull toward your comfort zone, take the first step and use your fear to your advantage. Remember that life is uncomfortable, but it's exactly the uncomfortable that allows you to grow. As Carl Jung once said, life begins where your comfort zone ends. The art of failing like a professional. We spend so much time avoiding failure that when we finally stumble, we feel like the world is against us. But what if I told you that failing is not just a part of the process, but the most direct path to improvement? Of course, losing and falling doesn't sound as glamorous as winning, but the Stoics knew this trick all too well, accepting adversity with grace and using it as a tool to grow. Avoid at all costs, but it actually has more to teach us than any textbook. When we fail, emotions run high. Shame, frustration, and regret surround us like a black cloud. But if we pause and look beyond the emotional, we will see that in reality failure is pointing out areas where we need to improve. It is as if failure is a treasure map, but only if we know how to read it now. I'm not saying that you feel happy to fail. I'm not going to ask you to put a sign in your house that says, "Long live the mistake," because come on, you don't have to be so optimistic either. What I do invite you is to change your perspective. Every time you make a mistake, don't see it as a defeat but as an opportunity to learn something new about yourself, about your limitations, about what really matters, and that is that, as the Stoics say, pain and failure are inevitable, but what really matters is how we respond to them. However, how to take advantage of failure is not a magic formula. It is not a matter of failing and expecting life to reward you for your effort. You need a plan, a constant action. The Stoic philosophy invites us to see each day as a new opportunity to be better than yesterday. Even if it's just a little, that means that every mistake, every stumble, every frustration is invaluable if you decide that you will use it to improve. It's like going to the gym on the first day. You don't lift weights like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but little by little, with effort and perseverance, you become a stronger version of yourself. Here, failing is not an obstacle, but a stepping stone to the top. The key is not to allow yourself to stagnate. The real failure is not to learn anything from your mistakes and to keep repeating the same actions over and over again. If every time you fall, instead of giving up, you decide to get up with more knowledge, in the end you will have come a long way. And no, it is not an easy or fast road, but who said that improving was going to be simple? Constant improvement is not a speed race, but a marathon of perseverance. The art of failing like a professional lies in knowing that every mistake is an opportunity in disguise. If you don't make mistakes, if you don't face adversity, How will you know that you are progressing? In the end, the secret is not to avoid falling, but to get up stronger, more wisdom and a renewed attitude towards learning. As the saying goes, he who does not risk does not win. But I would say that also who don't fail, don't learn. So the next time you fall, do it with style. You'll learn much more than you imagine. As Marcus Aurelius said, it's not the mistake that counts, but what you do after committing it. 5 routines that transform you. You've realized how many times in your life have you said, tomorrow I'll do it? And of course, tomorrow never comes. It's more, every time you say that to yourself, you sink a little more in the comfort of procrastination. If you've ever felt stuck in this cycle, don't worry. You're not the only one. It's the classic trap we all fall into, especially when we're more focused on excuses than excuses. However, what if I told you that your dream day isn't something that's out of reach or impossible to achieve? No, it's about developing habits that propel you toward personal growth, not about performing magic. Routines are crucial. The little choices you make each day, like what you do in the morning, may determine how the rest of your day unfolds. Imagine waking up and choosing to start with a simple routine, such as taking a few minutes to meditate or go for a stroll outside to decompress, rather than diving right into the turmoil of your unfocused day. What would happen if you chose to fill your mind with more productive thoughts instead of repeating the same ones? Even seemingly insignificant moments of calm have a lot of power these days. It's important to remember that self-discipline is one of the Stoics' most important lessons. They stressed the need to control oneself, avoid giving in to temptations, and strive for constant improvement. And that doesn't imply waiting for the ideal situation to arise because, let's face it, there aren't any. Rather, it entails making a commitment to yourself, even if it's just in little stages, to make your day meaningful. Even if you may not be able to write a 300-page novel today, you can still write a page. It is possible that you will not be able to change your life in a single morning, but you can take a step. The important thing is to keep going. Don't set goals so big that they demotivate you. Instead, start with something small that you can control and that makes you feel like you're moving forward. As you incorporate new practices into your routine, you'll discover that it's much easier than it seems. For instance, try writing down 3 things you are grateful for each morning. This will completely change your perspective on the day. If you struggle with decision-making, spend a few minutes each day reflecting on your accomplishments and shortcomings. It's a simple exercise that will help you focus on the good and teach you how to make better decisions. Stoic philosopher. Sika. It's not that we have little time, but that we lose a lot. The routines you create today will not only help you organize your day, but will become the basis of your future. You don't need to make a radical change overnight, just a commitment to yourself to improve a little every day. That's what really transforms your life. What really brings you closer to that version ideal of yourself. As Gandhi said, progress is not the sum of big steps but the constancy of small changes. 6. The noise in your head. Have you ever stopped to think in that noise that never goes out in your head? That internal dialogue that instead of helping you seems to be a very well-trained enemy, willing to sabotage every step you try to take forward. That constant murmur that tells you that you can't, that you won't do it well, that it's not worth trying. It's like having a private DJ in your brain. But instead of motivational music, it only plays negative thoughts, and of course, there's no way to move forward in the midst of that mental storm, right? The problem with this mental noise is that sometimes it becomes a kind of block that prevents you from acting. And if I was wrong, and if I don't get it, and if it's too late, these are questions that resonate over and over again, as if your mind is obsessed with not doing instead of doing. The question is that you can't control what happens in your head, but you can learn to manage how you react to those thoughts. Is not magic, it's Stoic philosophy. The Stoics, those wise men of the past, talked about how we must learn to distinguish between what we can control and what we can't. Thoughts are like the wind. You can't stop them from blowing, but you can choose how to put your candle to propel you where you want to go. That is, your inner is just that noise. What really matters is what you decide to do with it. If you give space to doubt and insecurity, that's the direction your ship will take. If, on the contrary, you force yourself to take a step forward without letting fear paralyze you, the noise loses strength. So what can you do with that noise that doesn't let you move forward? First, recognize it. Let it and face it head on instead of staying stuck in the "I can't" start questioning it and "why can't I?" The answer, if you're honest with yourself, is almost always that the only real obstacle is you. The second step is to take action. Even if your thoughts tell you otherwise, do it. Take a step, even if it's small. If you're struggling with procrastination, for example, force your body to sit down, work. Even if it's only 5 minutes, when those 5 minutes turn into 10 and those 10 into an hour, the action quiets the thoughts, and most importantly, don't expect the noise to disappear completely. In fact, there is probably always some noise in your head. What matters is that you don't let that noise dictate what you do or stop doing. Force yourself to improve every day, even if you don't be it small. The key is consistency in moving forward, even if thoughts tell you that you can't or that it won't be worth it, because in the end the biggest enemy is not outside of you but inside your head. The noise in your head only has the power that you give it. If you stop to listen, you may never move forward. If you force yourself to act, even when your mind is saying you can't, you will see how that noise dies off little by little. Don't forget, every day is a new opportunity to silence the mental chaos and take a step forward. Force yourself to improve, even if it's just a little, because the day you stop listening to that noise will be the day you start to move forward. As a wise Stoic proverb says, the only noise that matters is the one that generates the action. 7. Comparison is the thief of joy. I ever found you looking at others and thinking, why I can't have that, why I'm not as successful or happy as that person? If the answer is yes, then welcome to the club of those who sabotage themselves with the powerful tool of comparison. Is a dirty trick. It doesn't steal your peace and leaves you full of doubts and frustrations, all without you realizing the comparison, that national sport in which we are all experienced, is like a constant race to nowhere. Instead of focusing on your own route, you spend your life looking at the path of others, looking for something to discourage you. It is as if you were running a marathon, but instead of moving towards the finish line, you spend all your time looking at the other runners, measuring their speed, its pace, and even its style of shoe, and the result, you end up getting lost, tripping and falling behind, a total loss of energy. Here is the harsh truth. Comparing yourself with others is a trap. You may believe deep down that it will help you move faster, but it only paralyzes you. Sure, you can look at others and think that they are further away, that they have something that you don't have, but that it's just an illusion. The Stoics, that ancient philosophical school that taught us to seek inner peace and happiness in what depends on us, would tell us that the key is to focus on what is under our control, not on what others do. They knew that you can't win a race if you're constantly looking to the side. Then what to do? The solution is simple, although not always easy. Focus on your own path. Force yourself to improve every day. Even if it's just a little, you don't need to be the best at everything, but you can be better than yesterday. This is not about making big leaps at once, but about constantly working on yourself, improving those small details that bring you closer to the person you want to be. The key is in consistency, in not giving up at the first obstacle or when you want to be others seem to move faster. To stop comparing yourself, it is essential that you put your energy into what you can control: your actions, your mind, your habits. Stop thinking about what you cannot change and focus on what yes. Every day is a new opportunity to be a little better, to take one more step towards what you want to achieve. Sometimes that will be more difficult than others, but the important thing is keep moving forward. The next time you find yourself comparing yourself to others, remember that you are not in the same race. Your life is not a popularity contest or a list of comparative achievements. It is your journey with your own challenges and victories. So instead of looking at others, follow your route. The only rival you really have is yourself. Compete against your past version, and you will see that that is more how enough. If you force yourself to improve a little every day, in the end you will be surprised at how far you have come. As Brian Tracy defends, the real competition is in being better than yesterday, not in comparing yourself with the other 8. From dreamer to doer. Yes, surely you have felt like those inveterate dreamers who are full of ideas, purposes, and brilliant projects. But how many times have you finished the day with a list of dreams that never came true? The key is in a simple but difficult truth. Dreaming is fine, but acting is what counts. It's time to stop circling the same place and start moving. It's easy, right? Imagine that an architect has in his mind the design of an impressive building, but if he doesn't start drawing the plans, hire the masons, or ask for the materials, the only thing you will have will be a grandiose but useless idea. The same happens with you. Ideas are useless if you don't put them into action. You may like to think that you are working on your future, but the truth is that you are just accumulating empty thoughts. The Stoics, that ancient wisdom that many admire, knew this very well. They talked about the importance of what you do, not only what you think. So if you really want to become a doer, it's not enough to have goals. You need a clear plan and an unwavering commitment to improve day after day. Yes, you've heard well day after day. Now you may be wondering, but how do I go from idea to action? Here's the strategy. First, break down your goals into small tasks. If you have the goal of writing a book, don't start thinking about the cover or the acknowledgments. Focus on writing a paragraph every day. If your dream is to exercise, don't think about losing 10 kilograms, but about going for a walk for 30 minutes. It's easier and less intimidating. But of course, the hard part is not only breaking down, but committing yourself. This is where forcing yourself to improve comes in. You could struggle day after day. The couch might beckon. However, if you have the luxury of putting off your dreams, they will remain just that, dreams. Therefore, schedule that time with yourself. If you forget, no one else will do it for you. Here's a psychological trick. Link your actions to little rewards. After writing 500 words, reward yourself with a small treat or a break. The brain reacts much more favorably when it knows that a reward is in store for you. Consistency is another essential component. It's similar to learning to play an instrument at the moment. At first, the fingers do not move with agility and the notes sound out of tune, but with practice and patience, every day you play a little better, and the same with your goals. Believe it or not, every small step counts. The big achievements are just an accumulation of small daily actions. Conclusion: if you keep dreaming, without acting, you will be in the same place within a year, or maybe worse. You will have completely forgotten those dreams like this. Get down to work. Goals are made to be fulfilled, not to stay floating in the air. Remember that it is not about being perfect, it is about being constant, and as the Stoics said, the important thing is not to wait for the perfect moment, but to take advantage of the present moment to act. As Seneca said, "He who does not move forward today is left behind." Tomorrow 9. Surround yourself with the best. Have you ever stopped to think about the people around you? Yes, those who are by your side, those who support you or understand you. Well, let me tell you something. Your environment has more power than you imagine. In fact, it could be the difference between you remaining stagnant or taking that leap towards continuous improvement that you want so much. And no, it's not about having a tribe of influencers or self-help gurus, but about people who really push you to be better, challenge you, motivate you to break your own limits. Now you may be thinking, yes, of course that sounds very nice, but I can't choose the people I have around me. Well, I understand sometimes the circumstances are not so easy, but here is a little secret. Even if you can't choose your family or your co-workers, yes, you can choose how to respond to them, and most importantly, who you direct your energy towards. The Stoics were clear. The environment does not define who you are, but you can decide. How you react to it is more. As the philosophers of ancient times would say, you can force yourself to improve day after day, even in the midst of chaos. The power of the environment is real if you surround yourself with people who constantly tell you what you are. That you want to hear, that you are validated without challenging you. You are in dangerous terrain. It is as if you try to learn to swim in a plastic pool. Sure, you float, but you are really moving forward. If you want to grow, you need a tribe that pushes you out of your comfort zone, that gives you that little push that takes you beyond what you thought possible. What to do then? First, do an analysis of your close circle. Do it with the eye of a surgeon, who gives you energy and who takes it away, who challenges you and who keeps you stuck in your old habits. Sometimes improvement is not in making radical changes, but in being aware of who you give your time and energy to. Don't get caught up in the comfort of people who are only there to keep everything the same, because if you don't, there is growth. What is the point of surrounding yourself with people who encourage you? It does not mean that you suddenly surround yourself only with geniuses or experts, nor is it about putting everyone under a magnifying glass and choosing the perfect ones. It is rather about finding those who, regardless of their level of success or wisdom, have the ability to inspire you to be better. Sometimes the people you least imagine are the ones who, the more they teach you, remember that continuous improvement is not a destination. It is a journey, and on that journey you need fellow travelers to keep you on the path, because in the end, if you want to move forward, you need to be surrounded by those who are also moving forward. Surround yourself with people who drive you to improve. Do not get stuck in a bubble of comfort where no one challenges you. The Stoic philosophy teaches us that although we cannot control everything what is happening around us, we can decide how to face it. If you surround yourself with the right people, it will be much easier for you to force yourself to improve day after day, and although the path is not always easy, the right tribe can make the effort worthwhile. record. This thing I am going to tell you, my friend, your environment does not define your destiny, but it can be the engine that drives you to reach it. 10. Celebrate, breathe, and repeat. It's easy to start a project. True, the excitement of the first day, the energy, the optimism, but what happens after a couple of weeks? That spark you had at the beginning starts to fade. It's not so exciting to keep doing the same thing every day, and motivation slips like water through your fingers. If you feel identified, don't worry, you're not the only one. The key is to learn to maintain that motivation without it burning out in the process of improving. The first thing is to understand that motivation is not an eternal flame that is lit once and for all. It is rather a fuel that must be continuously refueled. If you don't, it simply goes out. But how to maintain that energy without ending up exhausted? Here is the trick. Celebrate, breathe, and repeat. Progress is not always seen in big leaps. Sometimes getting better is like building a brick house. Every day you put in a new one and you don't see much progress right away, but in the end you have a solid structure. Don't let the lack of immediate ones discourage you. Celebrate those small victories, those moments when you manage to make a little more progress. You finished a chapter of that book that you couldn't stop putting off. Bravo, you woke up early to exercise after weeks of procrastinate. Applaud me for focusing on what you can control and let go of what you can't. This philosophy is key when it comes to motivation. Many times frustration comes because we try to take on too much at once. We want to see immediate results, achieve everything at once, be perfect, and that, dear friend, is not only unrealistic, it's a direct ticket to exhaustion. Breathe, take a break when you need it. Don't overexert yourself. It's not about not to be the best every day, but to improve constantly without exhausting all your resources. Do it step by step, and when you feel that everything is beyond you, pause and reflect. The path to success is not a speed race, but a marathon. The key to daily improvement is in repetition, but not in doing the same thing like a soulless robot. The trick is to find vari within the routine. If you always do the same thing, you'll soon get bored and motivation will evaporate. Change your focus, find new challenges within your daily activity. If you've already mastered a habit, why not make it a little more challenging? If you exercise, add more time or change your routine. If you read, explore new genres. Repetition doesn't have to be boring. If you keep the idea in the process, the journey to constant improvement doesn't. It's a straight path, not always pleasant. There will be days when your motivation will fade and you'll want to give up. But remember, the key is to celebrate those small achievements, to breathe when everything seems too much, and to repeat intelligently, always looking for new ways to stay interested. Motivation is not a fleeting spark, but a fire that you must fan with patience and consistency. So don't give up, because every little step counts, and in the end, the sum of all those steps will be what will take you to the goal. As my father used to say, may he rest in peace. Progress is not a matter of big leaps, but of small daily victories. If you have come this far, write in the comments, the change is in your attitude. I invite you to subscribe, activate notifications, and comment so that YouTube recognizes that these videos are useful for people like you. This motivates us to continue creating similar content in the future. I suggest you review the last 2 videos that we recommend. I sincerely appreciate your time and support. See you in our next adventure.